are watching Channel Africa Conversations.
And to be honest, it's not easy, but we believe we are making a lot of progress because what is important is to ensure that we deliver on the promises that we made to our people. And what we also have to do is make sure that by the end of 5 years, we've delivered on all those promises and we've ensured that we've improved the standard of living for our people. There's hope in our people and there is confidence and pride in them being Botswana.
Hello and welcome to Channel Africa Conversations. I'm your host, Peter Ndoro. Today we turn our attention to Botswana and the new administration. Now, the country's 30 October elections last year signaled a turning point, with voters decisively rejecting the ruling party after nearly 6 decades and electing President Duma Boko's Umbrella for Democratic Change, the UDC, with a strong mandate. As the UDC government marks its first 100 days in office, we discuss the administration's achievements, challenges and future plans. The first 100 days are often seen as a critical period for any new government to set the tone for its tenure, implement key policies and also fulfill campaign promises. In Botswana, this period has been marked by significant initiatives, including efforts to restore trust, revitalize the economy and build equity amongst young citizens. To tell us a little bit more about this, we speak to the Minister for State President, Mr. Moeti Mohwasa. Minister Mohwasa, thank you very much indeed for joining us on Channel Africa Conversations.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for having us in your show.
Minister, it's been a little over 100 days now. I guess having sat on the opposition benches for a significant period of time, it's been quite an adjustment. How is running government going?
Running government, particularly around this time when we're going through challenges as a country, it's not easy. We had actually set some high targets for ourselves. And to be honest, it's not easy, but we believe we are making a lot of progress because what is important is to ensure that we deliver on the promises that we made to our people. And what we also have to do is make sure that by the end of 5 years, we've delivered on all those promises and we've ensured that we've improved the standard of living for our people. There's hope in our people and there is confidence and pride in them being Botswana.
When you came into government, the UDC government emphasized 3 pillars, if I'm not mistaken, and it was restoring trust, it was revitalizing the economy and building equity. How would you say you've started on that journey? 100 days is not a long time, but have there been things you've started to put into place that we can say, okay, those are the 3 pillars and this is what they've started to do?
What I was started with is that we had one. I just want to go into specifics. We had promised that we will increase the old age pension scheme from 830 pula to 1,800. The financial year under the UDC came into force or effect yesterday, 1st of April. When what we've offered our people now is 1,400 pension, which is like an increase of 570 pula, which is quite a lot. Our wish was to increase it to 1,800 pula, but because of the competing demands and the challenges that we have at the moment in terms of our fiscals, we've only managed to raise the pension to 1,400. And we are hoping that with time, we will increase it to 1.8 and probably even to more than 1,800 when we get to 2029. We had also pushed for a minimum wage of 4,000 or a living wage of 4,000 pula. We have not really, in terms of government, introduced the minimum wage of 4,000, but we have signaled to all. And we are currently even engaging with our unions with a view to increasing the salaries of our people through a program that we have, we're calling a fan-shaped structure. So there's a lot of movement, quite honestly, in terms of improving the standard of living of our people. And we are hopeful that this will be, we will achieve by 2029. We'll have achieved all, if not most of promises that we made to our people. The other thing that we've also promised, which we've also put in place, is the 300 Pula Child Support Grant, which also kicked in yesterday. That's one thing that we have also promised. And then we also talked about free sanitary pads. 1st of April, that is in place. We spoke about the introduction of the we're undertaking a forensic audit. We are now doing it. It's in force. People are on the ground making sure that we do a thorough audit. And this is going to go back by about 10 years, from 2014 to 2024. And then we also talked about 30% reduction in the water tariffs. That has also been put in place. We've spoken about introducing or putting up 100,000 houses between now and 2029. Well, by South African standards, when you're talking about 100,000 houses, it's a small amount. But you'll appreciate that we have a smaller population. Botswana, we have about 2.4 million people. We're talking about housing that was going to be pushed by government. We are sure that by 2029 we'll have built 100,000 houses. Already there's a project that's supposed to be launched for construction of about 3,000 houses. Anytime from now, we'll be launching that project. And we've come up with a Bono housing scheme that allows people to take loans from the government, softer loans to put up houses. When we went to elections, as a way of countering the opposition, the ruling party came up with what they called Chama scheme that was mainly targeted at the informal sector. And we argued at the time that this should have been a grant instead of a loan. Ever since when we took over just 2 months ago, we decided to cancel this, converted from being a loan to be a grant. And those who had already applied and had their applications approved are actually going to be assisted, but not by way of a loan, but by way of a grant, and see how we can put them together to operate as cooperatives. We've also we were at the moment looking at rationalizing government spending holistically to ensure that there is cost efficiency. These are measures that we're putting in place to ensure, like I indicated, to deal with wasteful spending. I've given you a mouthful there.
I mean, that is quite a list of things that have been able to be achieved. There was what you've introduced, economic stabilization and reform plan. Tell us a little bit about that, and what are you hoping it will do? Have you started to see some seeds?
Well, yes. One of the things that we believe we have achieved, not just on the side of the economy, is making Botswana feel free again. Though not exactly, but there was a feeling among Botswana that there was tyranny. People were not free to express themselves. There was an onslaught on the part of the then government. And we emphasize that there's need, because ours is a human rights-based government. And what is central in whatever we do, it's human rights. So we've emphasized that people should be allowed to speak freely. They should not be tapping off or eavesdropping on private conversations. And definitely, we've actually even given instructions to the security agencies that will not tolerate such kind of behavior. People feel relatively free now, and I believe we are going to do more to ensure that people feel that they can express their views without any fear of being reprimanded or any negative consequences. That is where we are. But the most important thing is that we need to make sure that Botswana feel free to express themselves, and that we really we really behave like a proper democracy. And that should be, the government should be at the forefront in ensuring that this happens.
The other side of that, of course, is transparency and accountability. Is that something that you've started to take on board, allowing the media access to information, making yourselves available, and letting people see literally what's being done in their name?
What we have done is we have set up a task team that is going to look at all the laws that impede or interfere with press freedom and freedom of expression. There's a task team that is led by a veteran journalist and by the name of Gideon Ngala, and a number of other seasoned journalists and people from the University of Botswana who are looking into our laws, and we're hoping that after they have had a look at these laws, then they will present a report to the minister, who will then take that report to cabinet. Because what you probably might be aware of what was passed like by the previous government, an act of parliament that was commonly known as the Media Practitioners Act, a controversial piece of legislation. With our emphasis, as we have indicated to the media, is that we believe in self-regulation, but equally they should appreciate that at the moment there is no regulation either by way of the government or by state or self-regulation. But it's important that we also balance interests here, because we believe there are some sections of the media that do not respect the rights of other sectors of the society, and therefore it's important that while also acknowledging the rights of the media, we should also protect the rights of individual citizens. So not just citizens, but people within the country. So we have said that we need to make sure that we have a proper self-regulation mechanism in place, and that has to happen very soon. Of course, we are also going to be looking at issues like freedom of information, and where there are impediments, make sure that we do away with those impediments.
The economy, largely built on minerals such as diamonds, very important to you. A recent agreement by De Beers, I think, is seen as a significant milestone. Can you tell us a little bit about the terms of this agreement and perhaps how it differs from previous deals and how it will filter into bettering the lives of Botswana?
The deal that we have look, the whole negotiations were started by the previous administration, and the talks were quite protracted. What we emphasized when we got in was to ensure that we closed the negotiations as soon as we could, and with this we achieved. And what is central in this revised agreement is that we are going to see Botswana playing an active role in determining how its resources actually are utilized, are sold, not only in terms of them being sold, but how we also get a bigger share than what we used to get before. Not only that, what is also going to happen is that we're also going to make sure that we push for more processing of diamonds in locally, allowing. But the most significant issue here is that we say it to be the De Beers, because you see there's De Beers and then there's Botswana. Botswana is 50% owned by government, 50% owned by De Beers. So these are two entities. We say to De Beers, if in the past, De Beers used to get like 75% of whatever we had, and then 25% was given to ODC, the Vanguard Diamond Company, which is 100% owned by government. Now, under the new or the revised agreement, De Beers wanted to, we say to De Beers, if you're not selling, then if you're not buying, allow Botswana to sell to whoever is interested in getting the diamonds. The difference now is that we can actually sell to other people, not just De Beers. And this actually will assist us in terms of ensuring that we diversify our market, which is quite important.
Transitioning of power often comes with its challenges, and this is something we've seen all over the world because you have things that you didn't know before you came into power. Have there been significant challenges, things that you've inherited perhaps, that have become obstacles for you, and how have you addressed them?
Well, our position is that everybody who is serving in government should be given opportunity to prove him or herself, regardless of whether we've had run-ins in the past or not. But our position is that first of all, these are civil servants, so they're not supposed to be political. Even though we know some might also be having some their preferences, but the bottom line is that they also have a right to serve their people. And we have said, and our position as a government is that everyone should be given opportunity to serve. But if there's anyone who goes out and sabotages the current government, which has been put in place by the people, that person must go. That is our position. But look, it's still early days. We might obviously we might be also having different cultures or different perspectives. But what is important is to make them realize where we want to take this nation and get them aligned to what the UDC government is intending to do. And there's been some slight improvements, slight changes in terms of the attitudes. Normally, civil servants take a posture that is aligned with that of the ruling party. They do things because they believe they are consistent with what the ruling party wants. And probably some of the people behaved in the way they did in the past because that was the attitude of the then ruling party. And there's been a shift in terms of how they respond to the challenges and how they deal with people because, like I indicated, ours is a human rights-based government, and we want to listen to our people. We always tell our people that we don't have the solutions to their challenges. The challenges to the solutions to their challenges will actually come from them.
Transitioning of power often comes with its challenges, and this is something we've seen all over the world because you have things that you didn't know before you came into power. Have there been significant challenges, things that you've inherited perhaps, that have become obstacles for you, and how have you addressed them?
Well, our position is that everybody who is serving in government should be given opportunity to prove him or herself, regardless of whether we've had run-ins in the past or not. But our position is that first of all, these are civil servants, so they're not supposed to be political. Even though we know some might also be having some their preferences. But the bottom line is that they also have a right to serve their people. And we have said, and our position as a government is that everyone should be given opportunity to serve. But if there's anyone who goes out and sabotages the current government, which has been put in place by the people, that person must go. That is our position. But look, it's still early days. We might obviously we might be also having different cultures or different perspectives. But what is important is to make them realize where we want to take this nation and get them aligned to what the UDC government is intending to do. And there's been some slight improvements, slight changes in terms of the attitudes. Normally, civil servants take a posture that is aligned with that of the ruling party. They do things because they believe they are consistent with what the ruling party wants. And probably some of the people behaved in the way they did in the past because that was the attitude of the then ruling party. And there's been a shift in terms of how they respond to the challenges and how they deal with people because, like I indicated, ours is a human rights-based government, and we want to listen to our people. We always tell our people that we don't have the solutions to their challenges. The challenges to the solutions to their challenges will actually come from them. And that is the attitude of the current government, because we are not experts in each and every area.
Right. So one of the things that kept coming up as we were covering the election process and the campaigning was that the previous administration was accused of quite a bit of corruption. People want accountability. Without going on a witch hunt, will people that were involved in corruption during the previous administration be brought to book?
Definitely. Definitely. That is why we have instituted a forensic audit, basically to ensure that we get to the bottom of it. The president went to length to explain the limitations of commission of inquiry. So we have gotten these people to come and do a forensic audit, not just to do the audit, but also asset tracing.
Okay, so you're on top of that, and that process has begun. When might people start to see prosecutions, for example?
Well, we are not where we believe action has to be taken. We'll refer such cases to law enforcement agencies, and we are hoping that the whole assignment will be completed in the next 10 months or so.
We've covered a number of elections already in the last 6 months, 10 months. And one of the key features and key issues in all the countries that we've seen has been youth unemployment. Botswana dealing with the same thing. What steps have you taken as a government to deal with that? Because that, I would suggest, is probably one of the most burning issues that need to be dealt with.
Yes, what we are doing right now, what we have emphasized is that we want to emphasize on infrastructure development, because we believe that will actually assist us create job opportunities. We believe that the future of this country obviously will be on obviously, and like any other countries, in the youth. We need to make sure that we train and retool our youths and make sure that they're ready for whatever challenges they will come across. But like now, we're actually talking to a number of people with a view to attracting investment and making sure that we also have an investor, private sector participation in the economy, because it is only through such kind of engagements with the private sector, also the government playing a role in terms of infrastructure development, that we can see more opportunities open for our people. But the most important thing is that, which is actually worrying us, we need to create jobs that are sustainable, jobs that are going to take care of our people, jobs that, not just menial jobs, we're talking about jobs that will allow our people have a roof, to lead decent lives. And one of the things that we have had as a challenge in this country is unequal distribution of wealth. That is a huge challenge for us. That is where we have said we are not going to negotiate when it comes to 4,000 pula living wage. And mind you, this is based or calculated on the basis of on the basis of the current prices on the prices of basic necessities. Once the prices go up, then obviously there will be adjustment in terms of the minimum or the living wage. So what we are saying is that everybody, government, private sector, we need to make sure that we pay our people well. And that in the long term actually it assists the society and the government. Because if you have an economy that marginalizes people, those very marginalized people actually a threat to those that is actually even to that very stake and that they're not allowed to be part of, it becomes even under threat. So what we need to do is make sure that to ensure we pay our people well, create jobs for our people so that they can look after themselves, take care of their families, That is central in our economy, or in our priority. So what we are looking at, quite honestly, is to ensure that we create more jobs for our people, and we avoid a situation. And most importantly, what we also have to look at is building the capacity of the state. Over the years, we have we have found ourselves in a situation where we have a weakened state, a state that cannot even patch potholes, a state that cannot even take care of, make sure that it takes care of basic maintenance. Because we've been sold this idea that that it's only the private sector through the tender system that can deliver on some of these projects. And the reason why that is the case, and what that has led to, is a lot of corruption. We need to deal with this disease head on. We have found a situation whereby some tenders, because of differences in terms of, or fights over who should get what, we failed to deliver some of the projects on time. We need to make sure that we build the capacity of the state. In some instances, we have some security guards, we have some cleaners in some companies that have been employed by the government, not paying these people on time. Those that do underpay them, and this breeds poverty. And ultimately, these people become a responsibility of the government, and they become a burden on the state. So we have to make sure that we take care of everybody, so that people can actually even take care of their families, and that also lessens the burden on the government, and it builds pride in our society. Those people that have a decent income actually have a sense of pride.
You mentioned infrastructure development just now. Are there any major projects in the pipeline that you've started to initiate?
Well, we are making an audit. But one that comes to my mind instantly is the A1 that runs from Ramatlabama, from our border with South Africa, the northwest, up to Ramkabana, with our border, where we have a border, we share a border with Zimbabwe. That's around about 500 kilometers of third road, where we want to do a dual carriageway. And then that's one. And then we are also looking at rail lines between Mamabula and Lepalale. That's a priority project, because we have a lot of coal in that area. So we need to move the coal out of Mamabula. We are looking at another rail line between the Trans-Kalahari rail line. We are also looking at Moeti, Livingston rail line, and many others. We are also looking into the Martin's Drift, or on the South African side, which is what is called as the Groblersdrift border. We need to look into those projects, and there's a number of other projects. And we are also looking at the possibility of which has to be done as a matter of urgency. Botswana and South Africa are linked, and then in many ways, culturally, economically, and just we can even say politically. So there's no way that we cannot have a 24-hour border between Botswana and South Africa, because we also have a lot of goods that are coming through from North Africa, from your DRC, and from Zambia, going to Durban, and those goods pass through, and also us exporting through South Africa, and also importing in goods through South Africa as well. What this therefore means is that we should have a seamless passage of goods through these borders. And once we have borders closing for 8 hours and with long queues at the border, that becomes a challenge. And it doesn't encourage trade and business. So what we need to do is, as a matter of urgency, we need to make sure that at least one border in the north and another in the south operate on 24-hour basis. There's a lot of potential between Botswana and South Africa, and Botswana and the region. So we need to make sure that we interact, and strengthen ties between ourselves and the neighboring countries, and build our economies.
I think you may have partly answered my next question, which was regional and maybe even international policy. Has the UDC government brought in some new ideas and how Botswana sees itself positioned in terms of relations in the region and globally?
Our emphasis is on human rights. Obviously, when we interact and interface with other countries, what will guide us will be human rights. Those countries that we interact with, do they have respect for human rights? That is the central issue. If they do, then there won't be any problem. Well, if they don't, of course, we are going to be looking at other interests as well. So, but the most important thing is that we want to make sure that one, we play the correct role when it comes to international affairs. But equally, what we need to make sure that we encourage and increase trade between ourselves and particularly with the countries that we share a border with. Because it's easier, we understand each other, we share a lot, we have a lot in common. So it's easier to interact with and build a very strong relationship with our neighbors.
Speaking about your neighbors and human rights, there have been accusations. Let's talk about Zimbabwe, where the country has been accused of falling short in terms of affording all of its citizens their human rights. What does a country like Botswana, that's putting human rights, the agenda front and center, deal with countries like Zimbabwe where there are instances and concerns?
Well, what we'll do is like obviously we'll have the right platforms. I wouldn't really talk about Zimbabwe, like we are saying. Ours is just a general approach where we believe that there's one country is not the disrespect for human rights in one country. We'll engage with those countries. We'll not even go public in terms of our expressing our unhappiness with the policies in those countries. We will, through the right channels, through the right platforms, engage with those countries and make them realize the importance of upholding and respecting human rights.
Perhaps in conclusion, I wonder what your message would be that you'd like to share with the citizens of Botswana and those in the diaspora in terms of where you are after 100 days and what your hopes and ambitions are for them in the coming days.
All that I can say is that we know what the challenges of our people are. We know what they're wishing for, and we are doing all within our power to ensure that we respond to those concerns, their challenges, their aspirations. But we were put in power to make sure that we deal with the challenges and deliver on the promises that we made in the next 5 years. Because people were also facing numerous challenges. There's a bit of impatience on the part of our people. Some who are understanding, who also appreciate the challenges and the battered economy that we inherited, and they're quite supportive. We're encouraged by the support that we get. Right now, the president has been going out interacting with our people through what we call quarter meetings, addressing people in the countryside, all over, interacting with business. Very soon, the president will be interacting with labor, interacting also with other actors in society, because we believe everyone has a role to play in our economy. And like we indicated, we're not going to give people solutions without engaging with them. We believe people know what their challenges are, and all that they need is to be given a platform so that we can discuss and allow them to guide us in terms of how we can address their challenges. We are a listening government, and we are hopeful that together we'll be able to address the challenges and ensure that, we have set our target of making sure that we change the face of Botswana in the next 2 years. And we remain focused on that. And we are not only hopeful, we are confident that the Botswana that you see today will be completely different from the one that you will see in the next 3 years. We are intentional, we are focused, And we know we are going to achieve this because there's a lot of commitment.
Minister for State President in Botswana, Minister Moeti Mohwasa, thank you so much indeed for joining us on Channel Africa Conversations.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having us in your program.
And that's how we come to the end of today's edition of Channel Africa Conversations. Thanks so much indeed for tuning in. Before I go though, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about the conversations that we have on the program, and more importantly, what kind of conversations do you want us to have? Please drop us a comment and your thoughts on our social media pages and platforms. You can see them on your screen now. In fact, you can share a thought and a comment right now on this platform. Until the next time, take care.